Hi, this is Gary with MACMOST.com. Let's take a look at the design of some of the app icons on your Mac. So let's start by looking at the Finder icon. The Finder is probably the biggest app on your Mac that you may not even think of as an app, but it is. It allows you to view, manage, and organize your files and folders. And it has a very recognizable icon. In fact, most people consider this to be the icon for Mac OS because for years it pretty much was. It started out looking a little different back in 1984. It just had a little symbol that looked like the Mac, but there was the face. And for years that evolved until we hit the two faces design in the 90s. This is when it also got its blue color that we know today. It actually has changed very little from the 90s, evolving with most versions of macOS and including Tahoe, where it now has slightly different shades of blue and a slightly different look. But anybody would recognize it from the original blue design in the 90s. It also has a similarity to a Picasso painting called Two Women. And you could see it here and why people think that Apple got their inspiration for this icon from this painting. There's another Picasso painting called Two Girls Reading that I think looks even more like it. It's also said that Apple got its design for its original Macintosh icon way back in 1984 from Picasso as well. Now let's take a look at Apple's browser, Safari. Safari is a term that means an expedition to observe animals. So the idea of taking a safari to look at websites is kind of what they were going for here. Just another way of saying surf the web or browse the web. And Apple chose a compass icon here that kind of evokes exploration and all of that. It's changed over the years, but it's remained bluish and kind of has the compass point pointed a little bit off of north, maybe to evoke the idea of exploring. A lot of icon design is just like regular artwork, where you can kind of get different things from what you see there. Maybe the original designers intended you to see that, or maybe they just intended it to be vague so you can see what you want in the design. Now let's go to the icon that inspired this video, because so many people ask what this icon represents. This is the preview icon, and in it is this little device called a Loupe, L-O-U-P-E. It is a little magnifying glass that you can sit down on top of something, a photo, a map, a document of some sort, and it sits the perfect distance so you can magnify what's under it. It's kind of like a magnifying glass, but the problem with using a magnifying glass in an icon for preview is that a magnifying glass is the universal symbol now for searching. And this isn't an app that you're searching. This is an app where you're actually looking at something, examining it closely. So it fits the idea of a loupe more, even though most people may not have ever even seen an actual loupe in person. Now let's go to an icon that you probably know what it represents. Most people do, but for how much longer? The phone app icon is an old-fashioned phone handset. It's basically the top part of this old-fashioned phone, although the same design for the handset remains today. You could still buy brand new landline handsets that look pretty much like this. At least the actual part that you hold to your face looks like this, even if the device underneath it is very different. And of course, a lot of people today don't have landlines at all. So eventually, this icon will just be the icon that people recognize for phone apps, and they won't actually have ever seen the physical object. Here's another icon that has a physical object that may eventually be completely gone. This is the photo booth icon. So this is the app on your Mac that allows you to use your camera to take pictures. Now, a photo booth is this little portable room where you can go in, sit down, and then it takes usually 4 photos quick succession after you pay some money. Decades ago, you would see these in various different public places and amusement parks, things like that. And you actually still find them today because people do like them, and you can actually hire them for parties, for instance. It's a really neat way to capture yourself because the 4 photos allow you to change your expression or gestures, things like that, while you're in the photo booth. And the strip that would come out is this strip of 4 photos, which is the icon for the photo booth app. And in fact, the photo booth app has a mode where you could actually do exactly that. It will take 4 photos in quick succession, and then you get this combination of the 4 of them. If you find these videos valuable, consider joining the more than 2,000 others that support MACMOST through Patreon. You get exclusive content, course discounts, and more. You can read about it at macmost.com/Patreon. Now let's take a look at the calendar app icon. And looking at this, you may not recognize it at all because you may not actually ever see the real icon. If you look in your applications folder, you will see this. It's an icon that represents a calendar, strangely with only 24 days in it. But if you actually have the calendar icon in your dock, or you search for calendar using Spotlight, you won't see this. You'll see a calendar icon that shows you the actual date. So most of the time that we view it, we don't see the real icon, the default icon. We see this variation of it that gives us some useful information. And related to that is the clock icon, which also has a default look showing 10:09. But if you put the clock icon in the dock, that icon will actually show you the real time. But strangely, for that one, if you do find it in Spotlight, you'll see that 10:09 time. Now, a lot of icons, of course, represent physical objects that bring to mind the functionality of the app. And this one is a really good example, although most people get the word wrong. When you see this icon, the icon for Keynote, the word that probably comes to mind is podium. But this isn't a podium. A podium is something that you stand on that elevates you a little bit, like when you get awarded first, second, or third place after a race. And you certainly can't have podiums that you stand on to make a presentation. But this icon doesn't show a podium. It shows a lectern. A lectern is a little table, usually with a slanted top, where you can rest your notes or your Mac while you make the presentation. But don't feel bad if you've gotten that wrong, because language changes over time, and more the word podium is being accepted as a description for a lectern. If you walk into a room that just has a lectern and then somebody says, stand behind the podium, you know what they're talking about. Now, I'm not a big user of the podcast app on Mac, but I do love the icon. The icon shows a little icon of a person, but with the circular radio waves coming out of that person, like you might see in many different symbols going back decades for radio towers. So the idea is you're broadcasting not from a radio tower, but from you, which describes podcasts very well. In addition, I kind of think the person icon looks like a lowercase I, which brings to mind the I for iPod, which is where podcasts originally got its name. I want to quickly mention some other app icons that have objects in them. There's, of course, the Find My app, which kind of looks like a radar display. Another one is the system information icon, which shows a measuring device called a caliper. Typically today, we see more squared off calipers for measuring the outside dimensions of something, but you could still find the curvy caliper, which I think looks kind of neat. And then disk utility has changed over the years, but now it shows a hex wrench adjusting a hex nut, which is kind of a neat icon as well. Rather new app from Apple is the Journal app. And that is a really cool icon. To me, it looks like a butterfly. So what does a butterfly have to do with journaling? Well, a butterfly is seen as a symbol of change, of growth, of metamorphosis. And journaling is seen as an activity you do for personal growth. So butterflies are kind of associated with activities like journaling. And I think the icon looks pretty neat. Now, one icon that doesn't look particularly remarkable when you first glance at it is the Maps icon. It looks just like some map symbols, but it actually is showing you a specific location. It's the intersection of I-280 and Wolf Road, which is just outside of Apple Park. As a matter of fact, you can see the circle of the Apple Park building right there in the icon. And there's another icon that features Apple Park. The new redesigned Tahoe version of the image capture app shows the little rainbow sculpture in Apple Park. Here's a view of it from Apple's last Worldwide Developers Conference Keynote event. Now, there's one more icon I want to show you, and that's the one for Automator. And it's just a little robot icon. It looks new in macOS Tahoe, but it's always featured this little robot. And the neat thing about it is the robot has a name. The name is Otto. Just Otto because it's Automator. I don't think this appears officially anywhere, but lots of people have just referred to this little friendly robot as Otto. So it's kind of neat that Automator is an app that has a little mascot. So which of the app icons that I mentioned do you like the most? Or perhaps you like one of the other app icons, one I didn't mention, even better. Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Want to know about every new MACMOST video each week? Sign up for the absolutely free MACMOST email newsletter at macmost.com/newsletter.